9 ingredients, just 9 ingredients. There was a time where my budget wasn't just on borderline desperate, it was absolutely screaming. I had £15 to feed us for the week, and quite frankly, I did not have time, the energy, the mental capacity to try and make £15 turn into magic. So I wrote a list, 1 bag, 9 ingredients, and I had to make it work. And this wasn't a one-off. This turned into that plan that I would keep in my back pocket, such emergencies, or one of those, oh my God, it's a 5-week month and that payday seems even further away than I really need it to be. So I'm going to show you exactly what I bought, talk about some of the ingredients with you, and also let you know what I would create with these, because these ingredients, these are magic ingredients. These are stretchy ingredients. These ingredients, if you know what to do with them, can become delicious, exciting, and different meals each time. Before we do get into the video, I just want to put a little disclaimer in that this video is not intended to be completely nutritionally balanced. It is not intended to be a long-term solution, because these are things that are great and will fill bellies, but they are not completely wholesome in terms of getting all those nutrients in there that we ideally need in a balanced diet. If you are struggling, there are places that you can go to, and I'll leave some links down in the comment section below, because nobody should be going hungry. These are hopefully just some ideas that might help you get through some of the trickier times. So ingredient number 1 is, of course, frozen veg. Ideally frozen mixed veg, but if you only like one kind of vegetable, that's fine. But mixed veg gives a little bit more versatility to this. Next, we've got pasta. Any kind of pasta. If you're going for the cheapest, you can get spaghetti. That is usually typically the cheapest, regardless of which supermarket you are in. Right, next to pasta is the rice. This is long grain rice. It's the whole bag, not just, those quick microwave portions. Try and get as big a bag as you possibly can. Same for the pasta, actually, because the bigger the bag, the longer it will last, and it'll tend to cost you a little bit less as well. Next, we've got bread, whichever bread you prefer, but if you're typically going for the cheapest, you can normally get a loaf around about 70p nowadays. Milk, of course. So I've got semi-skimmed. You don't have to get semi-skimmed. You also don't have to get fresh. You could get UHT, and if you just check the price on both, gets the fresh compared to the UHT, just to see which one is the most cost-effective for you. Tin tomatoes. I like the chopped ones. You can get whole ones. So sometimes they have a bit more flavour. I prefer this flavour, but again, whatever is suitable for your palate and your budget. I've gone with some tinned baked beans. Typically, these are the cheapest ones. If I was really stretching my budget, you could possibly switch up the beans for red lentils. However, my family don't always like red lentils, so this is our go-to staple. Porridge is next. I've just put a little bit in there because my bag has managed to split, so I don't want to get that everywhere, but porridge is another great staple. All of these things so far, you can see, are real tummy fillers. The last ingredient, which I didn't put in the bag, is eggs. And obviously, you can see why I didn't put those in the bag. But yeah, eggs is our 9th ingredient. So why 9 ingredients? This isn't some sort of quirky food challenge where I've done them in the past. Can I survive off £1 a day? Can I live off £10 a week? And it's doable, but these are not part of that challenge. They're on the channel if you want to go and see those videos. This is more about survival budgeting. It's the kind where you don't just cut the corners, you actually live them. I had £15. That was it. I could not physically afford to play aisle roulette or wonder whether I can afford to get that second tin of chickpeas. I needed to walk in, grab what I needed, and get out. And get out with food that could actually feed us. So these are the stretchy 9. They don't just do one thing, they can do lots of different things if you just know how to use them. They stretch across meals, they fill bellies, and they're quick. And look, there's no fancy foods, there's no unicorn berries, just humble, sturdy basics that can stand up in a rough week. Now here's the plan. And this is where it all comes together. You don't need 25 spices or 12 jars of sauce. You just need these ingredients and a plan. Yes, it would be great if you have got those spices and herbs. And as I go through some of these recipes and things that we can do, I'll talk about those, because if you do have them, you can absolutely supercharge whatever I'm going to throw at you now. But point is, you don't need them. So let's start with breakfast. We can go in with the most obvious one, which is porridge. And you can either do it with just water, or you can add a little bit of milk. Or why not do a bit of both? Add the milk and then stretch it out with the water, just to give you a little bit more saving, a little bit more cost effective. We can do toast with scrambled eggs, toast with fried eggs. Just have the toast with a bit of butter if you've got some. And let's think a little bit more out of the box as well. What about making some rice pudding with your rice and your milk? And if you do have some cinnamon in the cupboard, why not spice up your rice pudding a little bit? Or if you've got some jam, blob a little bit in there. It's no bells, no whistles, just warm food in the morning. And sometimes, why not skip the egg and do porridge twice? Save that egg for lunchtime. So what about lunch? You can do yourself a nice egg sandwich. Once the eggs cooled, chop them up, cold tomatoes, and get yourself a nice little posh egg mayo kind of sandwich. Now this is where the frozen veg comes in really handy, because you can make yourself a really nice soup. And you could even boil that out as much as you like with as much water. Use some of the bread to dip into it. Or if you want to switch over to an extra and make it last even longer, why not pop some pasta in there? If you've got the spaghetti, break them up into smaller pieces and throw them in. It just adds a little bit more density, a little bit more texture, and makes it a little bit more filling for you as well. And what about an egg fried rice with the mixed vegetables? And if you've got any of those soy sauce or anything else in your cupboard, get that thrown on. But if you've not, this tastes delicious without it. And before we move into the dinner ingredients, you could consider making a little bit extra of these recipes I'm going to tell you about now and having those as a leftover for your lunch the next day. So what about the dinners? What about some, my favourite, beans on toast? Kids love this. Or what about switching up and making a bean toasty? Get a couple of pieces of your bread, put the beans in the middle and toast them together so that when you pull it open, it's nice and hot. A bit like a kind of beanie pasty. And if you have got a little bit of cheese, you can grate, it doesn't need a lot, honestly. Just tiny little bit grated into there, and it just adds a little bit more excitement, a little bit more unctuousness to your toasties. You can have a frozen veg and tomato curry type thing. Why the word curry? It doesn't mean it has to be really hot and spicy, because if you haven't got them, that's fine. If you have, then again, maybe have it really plain and simple one day. The next day, make as much as you can, and then add the spices, and you've got another separate meal, but, it's just been elevated, and you've saved yourself a little bit of cooking. Add in your rice. That's a nice, easy one we can do. You can do an egg rice bowl. Rather than making it, your egg fried rice, do your eggs separately. Fry them is really nice. Do your rice, and on the side, put some of that frozen vegetables as well. You can do yourself a pasta bake if you get a certain type of pasta with the tinned tomatoes and your frozen vegetables. Keep it really simple. Just do the pasta with the tinned tomatoes, and then maybe zhee it up again another day with the frozen vegetables. So again, you're making yourself 2 meals rather than one. What about a frittata style baked egg and frozen veg on the side? Kind of like a crustless quiche. Look, these meals are nothing fancy, they're nothing posh. But every single meal will feel like a meal. When I had to do this, it didn't feel like we were scraping by. It felt like we were eating like we meant it. The kids were no different that I was struggling that week, because I could still produce some great meals. And then here is where I made it last. Because yes, I was on a budget, but I still had to make it feel like it was variety. So I already touched on making your meals, or double them up. You can batch cook, make them last longer. It's been a little bit less work for you, but you could do that where you make the one meal and then switch it up by adding an extra ingredient the next day, just so it feels a little bit different. Treat eggs like gold dust. You don't need 3 eggs per person. 1 or 2 should be quite sufficient if you do the right thing with them. Use water to bulk out your ingredients. If I'm making a curry, I would take the empty tin of tomatoes, fill it up with the water, give it a bit of a shake, and then use that to go into my curry, because not only am I stretching that curry a little bit further, I'm making sure I'm getting every last ounce of ingredient out of my tin and all that flavour in there. If you have got herbs, then obviously, throw them in there. Or even if not, just your basic salt and pepper will do, because that will add a little bit more dimension to it. I would always recommend keeping a flavour shelf. Having done this at the time I did it, I realised how much difference having simple things like garlic powder, onion powder, chili flakes in my arsenal, in my cupboard, can make such a massive difference to those meals. So I made it a habit where I would go out shopping each time, and as long as I had that £1 extra to spare, I would buy a different herb or a different spice and start stocking up all my different flavourings in there. Because then when I came to redo this again, and because I did redo it again, not because I was struggling with the money this time, but because these were great meals and it meant I could reduce my grocery bill. But then now I've suddenly got an extra elevation to them because I've got my spices and my herbs that I've been stocking up all along. This is not about making it look aesthetic. It's about feeding your family with peace of mind. When you know a plan like this, you don't panic when payday's late or if your car suddenly needs a new tyre. You don't go hungry or stressed or feel like a failure. You just say, okay, it's 9-ingredient week. We can do it. And that is what food budgeting gives you. It's not just about the savings. It's also about the stability. Look, this is not glamorous. Nobody is sat there right now watching this and thinking, wow, Michelin star. But what they should be thinking is, that's doable. I can do that. That's something that I could use. 9 ingredients, 1 week, full bellies, no panic. And if that's not worth sharing, I don't know what is. If you've enjoyed this video, I absolutely love it if you go ahead, give it a thumbs up, like, and don't forget to consider subscribing down below. Let me know in the comments section what is your favourite cheap, easy, go-to meal. Have yourself an amazing day, and I'll see you really soon. Bye.